Anyone who's used Linux for long enough will know that codecs, the usually proprietary pieces of software required to play multimedia files, used to be a huge pain point. Thankfully, however, this has mostly been ironed out in most distros, since most distros now have an option to install codecs at install time, and those that don't tend to have codecs hosted in an alternative repository, such as Debian, or don't have them at all due to commitments to free software. It seems, however, that codec issues haven't quite been ironed out in Fedora yet. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not as bad as it used to be all those years ago, but it's still pretty rough. Let me explain. Recently, I decided to give Fedora another look since it's the best supported distro by Asahi Linux. I installed it and it seemed to actually work really well. The install was easy, everything that's currently enabled by Asahi Linux worked, and the Fedora repository seemed to have a really good amount of software available. The only problem that I ran into is with codecs. During installation, Fedora actually asked me if I wanted third-party software to be installed by default, much like Ubuntu. I assumed that this meant codecs, but apparently not, because when I looked at my movies folder, virtually nothing would play. No big deal, I thought, as I went online looking for a way to install codecs. Some of the information that you'll find online is slightly contradictory, but the general guidance is more or less to enable a third-party repository called RPM Fusion, and then install all of the codecs that you need from there. So I did just that. After that, a vast majority of my movies seem to play just fine. You'd think that means I've succeeded, but nope, a few files that use more obscure codecs still won't play due to codec issues, and I can't seem to figure out how to get them playing, even though they will under macOS and probably other Linux distros. Additionally, the video preview in Kdenlive seems not to be working, which as a content creator is obviously something that I need to work. I also tried Pitivi out of curiosity, and it seems to have a fairly similar issue. In conclusion, none of these issues are severe enough to warrant me ditching Fedora. After all, I found it to be easily the best distro for my M1 iMac, and I can work around these problems with codecs by using Flatpak versions of programs that have issues. But it is still kind of annoying that codecs are so finicky on Fedora, especially since it's supposed to be a user-friendly distro and Asahi Linux's flagship operating system. I mean, can you imagine if people coming over from macOS experienced issues like this? They'd abandon Linux for good. Thankfully though, a Linux veteran like me can easily work around these issues, and to be perfectly honest, codec issues like this are even a little bit nostalgic for someone like me who's been using Linux for as long as I have. But in conclusion, that's it for today's video. I thank you for watching it, and I will see you in the next one.